Почитувани, добар ден и од мене. Наша гостинка денеска во студиото на Слободен Печат е амбасадорката на Соединетите Американски држави, господја Анџела Aгелер. Амбасадорке Aгелер, добре дојдовте и ви благодарам што ја прифативте поканата прв пат да гостувате во Слободен Печат.
Thank you so much, Jana. I'm delighted to be here, and let me say I was delighted to meet the whole team coming in, and so I'm really pleased to be here with you today and for my first trip, so I look forward to our conversation.
Thank you. It's a big team.
It's a great team.
Yes. I would start with the issue which is in focus last days, the so-called blacklist. After it was announced that Mr. Груби and Judge Pecat were added to the list, you said that those who undermine the rule of law in the country should understand that corruption has consequences. Apart from not being able to enter United States, these persons who are on the blacklist, I would say we cannot see that those persons are suffering any consequences. On the contrary, they continue to function normally with their business as usual. So what is the point of this blacklist?
Well, thank you for the question, because the purpose of the United States designating somebody under whichever law is appropriate is because it is required by our law. We are, U.S. law states that when we are aware of acts of corruption that are detrimental to the national interests of whichever country, then we are required to designate them under that category of law. And so this is not an effort to interfere or direct something within this country or any other in which we also designate people. It is, however, a mechanism that many other countries find useful, that when the United States puts together a case, and we do so very, very carefully, very thoroughly, and with a keen eye to what the law requires of proof, when we designate those people, many countries find it useful to then also build on that to bring about their own national consequences. And as I said the other day and have said in the past, it is our fondest hope that given much of the information being available right here in this country, that the investigators, law enforcement, prosecutors, judges will also follow up. So, because I do believe that corruption has consequences. It should have consequences. And so it is my hope that leaders here and officials here follow up on that as well.
I think that the right word is should have consequences, but I'm not sure that they have. Corruption has consequences in our case.
That's an argument that I've certainly heard. I'm American, so I'm hopeful. And I believe in positive things. And I also am very hopeful for this country because I believe in the people of North Macedonia. I believe in Macedonian citizens who have demanded of their leaders and their officials that they take action. We have increasingly heard that, and I am also heartened by the fact that many branches of the judiciary have come out since the announcement was made Monday night in Washington, D.C., to say that they believe there should be follow-up. And so I hope that's the case. And I will also tell you, Jana, that we are watching very carefully. We are watching many of the investigations and detentions and other actions that have taken place even this past week and are hopeful that they will bear fruit.
I must ask you, were you surprised when you saw the name of Груби on the list?
No. And it would be my guess that there is probably no one in this country amongst the citizens, amongst the judiciary, amongst anyone who was surprised to see his name on the list. One of the things that has been consistently true is when the United States has announced the designation of an individual, and this is same for Judge Bigetti, nobody says, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Everyone knows in this country who is corrupt. And frankly, this is something that we have been working closely with Washington, D.C. to have processed. So it has been many, many months. So I was not at all surprised. I was very pleased, and I was very pleased that Washington was able to make the announcement on International Anti-Corruption Day on December 9th. So I was not surprised, I was pleased.
Usually, high-ranking officials were put on this blacklist, so-called blacklist, but only after they left the office. It was case with Mialkov, with Gruevski, with Andushev, now with Grubi. Why these high-ranking officials are never put on the list while they are in the office?
It's not a decision, it's a process question. Because Washington works with embassies, with our embassy here, for example, that helps put together a package of information on individuals that we believe locally have participated in criminal corruption. And then it's quite a lengthy process. And so the embassy or any embassy in the world can put together a package on an individual, and it could take many months to a couple of years, depending on the complications of the case. So for us, it is never a political issue. It is never, I was asked if this was in response to various political activities over the course of the last week or months. And the answer is no, that's not how our process works. And it isn't our intention to become involved in the politics of it. So if in his case, the case had been completed when he was still in office, then we absolutely would have released it at that time. It was not. And so it's merely a processing question.
So you want to say that they don't have any kind of immunity, let's say, during their
Not for us.
position?
Not for us.
We expect new names. It will be interesting because you said we will not be surprised.
It hasn't happened yet that anybody's been surprised. So, and I can, as I have said before, this is a very dynamic process. We are building cases. Unfortunately, there are many opportunities to develop cases. I think the citizens and voters of this country certainly understand that. And so it is an ongoing process as we build those with Washington. And as cases are ready, then they will be announced.
Since you have said many times that corruption is a cancer, an epidemic in the country, are you personally disappointed, Ambassador, that there are no investigations in the country for these persons who are on the list, or we can see some so-called investigations with the result which we know? So I'm asking for you personally, are you personally disappointed?
Well, personally, yes. But far more importantly than how I feel about it is how do the citizens of this country feel about it? Because at the end of the day, I'm not a citizen of North Macedonia. I care about this country very, very deeply. And that is, I believe, one of the reasons why pursuing corrupt actors is so important to me, because the people deserve better. And who's really disappointed, clearly, are the citizens. We've seen from the reactions we've received since the designation on Tuesday morning here that there's been an overwhelming response from everyday citizens who are saying, yes, please, we want to see action. And so my disappointment is very, very insignificant and unimportant compared to those who are affected by it most. And so if I hope that action is taken, it is for the people of this country who have to live with corruption every single day.
Yes, but so far you have given, United States, you have given $500 million to the judiciary.
Yeah, I didn't have $500 million to give myself.
Okay.
So.
To the judiciary, and we all know the result. At some point, can you say we have given too much money from American taxpayers? It is enough. Is it possible to happen?
It's possible. I don't see that happening in the immediate future or the near future, because our strategic priorities here in North Macedonia are based on the strategic priorities and desires and wishes of the people of this country and their elected officials. We are not simply doing this for ourselves. It is in our best interest as the United States to make sure that this country is as economically healthy and with a robust economy and with sectors, all sectors working in the best interests of its citizens. And that will remain the case for now. And I expect that moving forward, that will continue to be the case, because we want to make sure that this country, which is not only a great partner and an important friend, but also as a NATO ally and strategic partner, that it is achieving its potential so that we all benefit from that. Your success as a country is our success. And so we will continue to work towards that goal.
Yes, but this success of the country, it seems too far.
Again, I'm an optimist, and I do believe that as we take these actions and as we see the reaction from the citizens, which has been, since I got here just over 2 years ago, the reaction that I have gotten personally from the citizens wherever I go who say, please keep doing this. Leads me to believe that we're on the right path. And so I will certainly keep trying.
I would finish this part about judiciary with question about your comment regarding developments in Judiciary Council after Vesna Dameva resigned. And by the way, she had great support of international community here. How do you comment this?
I know Vesna quite well, and she resigned just days, I think, before her mandate was over. That is an internal process, and we're in touch with her and many other judges. The decisions of the Judicial Council are not up to us, and frankly, I hope, and my comments on the Judicial Council, the composition of the Judicial Council, the comments from the Prime Minister and others about changing membership or how that works, has always been that this is a process that should be taken carefully and thoughtfully. And that is the same today as it was before. And I hope that it's important that there is a Judicial Council that works to support the judiciary, that works as a balance on other aspects of the judiciary. And we are here to support it as long as it is an institution of goodwill, and will be open to any discussions on how we can support that.
Yes, but you don't support dissolving of the council completely, as Prime Minister proposed.
The reaction there was, whatever action is taken, it is within his authority to do so. But our recommendation is, it's not so much an opinion on whether or not he should do that. It's that any action that takes place should be done in a way that is thoughtful and that is clear and transparent, so that the people of this country understand why actions were taken and what the goal is for the whole council. And so that's not a decision for us at the American Embassy. We are here to support thoughtful decisions that affect the broader rule of law here.
The fight against corruption is just one of the promises of the current ruling party during the pre-election campaign. As you know, because you were here in that time, they also promised growth of economy, reforms in healthcare, reforms in education, green energy, protection of environment, and many other promises. After 6 months of this government, what is your assessment? Are they fulfilling their promises?
So they inherited many challenges. Even I think from the previous government would agree that the issues at hand are enormous, and there is still a lot of work to do. 6 months is not a great deal of time for a new government, quite frankly. But I will observe that based on my direct interactions with this Prime Minister and with many of his ministers on some of the issues that you mentioned, energy diversification, trade, infrastructure, transport, regional connections, they have made progress. They have made significant progress. I will use the example of the Bechtel-Enka project. That was something that was talked about a great deal, and yet virtually no progress had been made. And now, today, there is real progress. You can see the infrastructure being built. It's visible, it's above ground, and citizens can look and see that, for example, the road between Bitola and Prilep is beginning to take shape. That is important. The interconnector with Greece on the energy front, that deal has finally been put in place. And and I know that the Prime Minister and his Minister for Energy and others, the Minister of Transport as well, have been in very serious talks and productive talks on interconnectors with other neighbors and also with transport connections, including rail. And these are all things that will bolster trade, raise regional trade with partners and with neighbors, and are such an integral part of the strategic placement of this country, particularly along corridors 8 and 10. These are things that we as a NATO partner are watching very closely, and I'm very pleased to see that the government is taking solid actions on these issues. Can they do more on some of the other promises? Absolutely, and we've talked about rule of law now for several minutes. There's much work to be done. I know that the Prime Minister recognizes that and many of his other ministers, but there is much to be done. And I know that the voters are watching very carefully to see what they do. So I think in areas where they have been able to get some really wins on some of these issues, they have done so. But there's a lot of work to be done. Education is another area where there is an enormous challenge. Healthcare is a hugely problematic sector. And I know from both of those ministers with whom I am in frequent touch, health and education, they recognize the challenges. These are critical to bolstering the citizenship of this country, the citizens, and creating an environment where people don't feel under fire. They don't feel as though they're not getting the support of their government. So there's still a lot of challenges.
Yes, but about healthcare and education, it seems that everything is going so slowly that they're switching from this on this side, then other reform, then other plan. So it is very slow.
It certainly appears that when you have a system that is so broken, it is not something that can be fixed in 6 months. And this is a problem that has grown under many previous administrations that frankly existed in some forms for the last couple of decades. And so in order to, as I understand it, in order to really show reforms in these areas, there will have to be major structural changes and, frankly, an enormous investment into those two sectors as well. And I know that financially, the government is struggling with the budget. And so these are not things that we can see quick fixes for, but they're very aware, because their voters are telling them, that these are problems that need to be addressed.
When you say system broken, so it was not broken during last government, let's say.
Oh, I think it was.
Yes?
I think
so you blame the previous government?
No, I don't blame it at all. I believe it's a systemic problem. This is a problem that has existed for decades.
Yes.
This is not as though the previous government broke it, that it was fine, and and it's not as though the new guys broke it. This has been broken for a while. And, or at least that's certainly what I hear from my Macedonian friends, that the question of education, for example, as just one, is something that has been deepening for quite some time. And the point is not to assign blame to any particular government, but to figure out how to fix it. And that is where the challenge is. And this is the same issue with the health sector. It's enormously problematic. And the frustration that I hear from my friends and colleagues about both of those sectors are enormous. And so it isn't as though people don't recognize it. The question is, how do you do this in a careful way that that gives those really critical services back to the citizens?
So where is the key?
If I knew, I would hand it over. It's really difficult. And again, many of these issues go back to resources. The government is really challenged by the budget, and I recognize that. I speak frequently with the Minister of Finance, and she has an enormous task. And so it's something that, we will support as we can, but it's a real challenge for the government.
Maybe, don't you think that maybe EU integration is some kind of key?
I think it would be enormously helpful.
Yes.
And that is something that we have talked about, and we have urged that full integration into the European Union is something that will, and the important part of that is undertaking the reforms that are required for full membership within the European Union would address all of these sectors, whether it's rule of law, education, energy, clean energy, health, all of these. And so it is our hope that these take place at the same time, that the necessary reforms that open up the various chapters within EU accession, that the country moves towards those. And yes, would being in the European Union be helpful? Yes, absolutely. As you look at the newer members, every country that has joined in the last decade or more has shown economic growth, has shown educational benefits, health sector benefits, and trade as well. So yes, absolutely.
Regarding European EU integration, constitutional changes now became the main condition for continuing negotiations with EU. But the Prime Minister and the government insist that they will not be adopted in the Parliament, as they say, under Bulgarian dictation. Do you see a dictation from Bulgaria in this case?
I personally have never heard the Prime Minister or his ministers say that they will never be adopted in the Parliament. I know they have talked a great deal of what that process is, of whether or not there is negotiation with Bulgaria. My understanding is the deal was made under the French proposal, and that it was accepted by the previous government, and that's that. And so the way forward is something that, you know, the bilateral relationship with Bulgaria, I'm not the U.S. ambassador to Bulgaria, so I'm not in a position where I can talk about that. I do know that this government, the president was there. I do know that there are lines of communication, and I hope those continue because, frankly, the politics, the domestic politics of it, in my mind, I'm not sure they're worth waiting. And so it is my hope that this government finds a way to move forward as quickly as possible and to start making those reforms, to start doing that. I also understand that there are domestic considerations. And so it is not for me to dictate. I just hope that it happens sooner rather than later.
Just one more thing about your country, about U.S. You already have a new president.
Well, not yet.
Okay.
He doesn't swear in until January. We still have...
He will. He will.
He will. He will.
Okay. President Trump, during the campaign, focused on domestic issues generally. But now major moves are being announced on the international stage, let's say. Do you expect changes in the new administration's policy toward the Balkans? And what are the differences for you, let's say, to serve under different presidents? Because you served under 5 presidents, as I remember.
As a Foreign Service officer, the changes are not great. They're not huge. It's foreign policy, generally speaking, remains the same. And it is my expectation that certainly our priorities here will remain the same. I've worked for President Trump before. I was doing my job when he was president before. His focus is different than President Biden's, and that's fine. And I would also note that as is true in this country, that in the United States, candidates tend to focus before elections during their campaigns on domestic issues because you want to talk to your voters about the issues they care about. And so that is not surprising to me. And I am certainly making plans to move into the new year and focusing on those issues that I have focused on since I got here in November of 2022. And they are the priorities of helping this country achieve its strategic priorities of security, stability, a strengthened economy, interconnections, and to continue to work together as NATO allies and friends. And I will keep doing that, and that it is my expectation that that is what the new president and the new Secretary of State and others will expect. And so the friendship and partnership that the United States has had with this country since independence will continue.
Амбасадорке Aгелер, денеска е петок 13. Морам да ве прашам, дали сте суеверна личност? Superstitious person?
I'm not, but my husband is. And my husband is very superstitious, but only about Friday the 13th. Okay. So if I was superstitious, I might not have done a television interview, but I frankly, I've had just as much good luck on Friday the 13th as I have any bad luck, and it is my great good luck to have spent part of it with you today. So thank you so much.
Ви благодарам за времето одвоено за да гостувате во Слободен Печат.
Thank you.